Have you ever looked at your partner? This is someone you chose, someone you built a life with, and quietly thought to yourself, we just aren't compatible anymore. It probably happened slowly. There wasn't a single dramatic moment, just more like a gradual dimming. The conversations that used to feel easy start to feel more difficult. The things that never used to bother you have started to bother you a lot. And that warm, close feeling that was always just there, it's not there anymore. And our mind, being the meaning making machine that it is, well, it starts to do what it does best. It starts building a case, collecting evidence, replaying moments, noticing patterns about him or her. And before long, it has a very convincing story, one that simply says, we've grown apart. I want things to be different. Maybe we're not quite right for each other. And that story can feel very, very real. But here's something I've come to understand through the years of working with couples and in my own relationship with Dave. Through the seasons, that we've been together, the ups and the downs, you don't ever fall out of compatibility. You fall out of perspective. And those are two entirely different things. One is more permanent and one is temporary. And knowing the difference changes things. It has changed a lot for me. I want to share something with you that might sound a little counterintuitive at first. The less you think about what you want out of your relationship, the happier you will be. And I know that sounds like a bold statement, maybe even a little uncomfortable, because we live in a world that tells us to know our worth, to set our standards, to be clear about what we need and what we want. And I'm not saying those things don't matter, but here's what I've noticed in my practice and in my own life. When we carry a running mental list of what our partner isn't doing, what we wish they were doing differently, what bothers us about them, what we've been waiting for them to change, well, that list becomes a lens. And we start seeing our partner through that lens. You're making dinner and you're thinking about something they said last week, or you're sitting together and you're kind of half there. You're half somewhere else. You're constantly comparing them or measuring them against things. And the more you focus on dissatisfaction, the more dissatisfaction you're going to find. Because that's how our mind works. What we look for, we find. Now, what works for Dave and me is a shift that sounds simple, but is genuinely profound. Focus on what you love about your partner. Return to what drew you to them in the first place. Focus on what you think about them, and this in turn will help you grow your relationship. Think back to when you first met one another, when you first fell in love. What did you see in them? What made you laugh? What made you feel good? That wasn't an illusion. That was real. And I'm here to remind you that version of them didn't disappear. Just slowly, gradually, you stopped looking for it. One of the most common things people say to me, I hear this a lot, is my partner just isn't living up to my expectations. And I always pause and ask, did you ever really expect to find everything you wanted in one human being? Because the truth is, we all have human frailties. We have habits that are hard to shake. We have moods, bad moods that come and go. We have rough edges and blind spots. And the particular personal ways that stress shows up in us changes. And a lot of those things They don't fully reveal themselves until someone has loved us long enough or loved us closely enough to see them. And that's the intimacy. The version of your partner you fell in love with is here. The version back then was incomplete because you hadn't seen the whole of them, and now you have. And the question becomes, can you love the whole person, not just the highlight reel? And when you stop spending energy looking for what's wrong, something quietly and remarkable happens. Those things that bug you, they start to lose their grip. They don't disappear, but they stop feeling like evidence of something that's broken. They just become part of the whole person, part of the texture of your life together. Here's something I love to invite people to try, and it's deceptively simple. Take the thing about your partner that bugs you the most, the thing that on a hard day, it just feels like fingernails on a chalkboard. Now, instead of giving it the label of a flaw or a problem or evidence of incompatibility, what if you just made it neutral? So not a big deal. It's not a fact about who they are or what your relationship means. It's just a thing that they do, a quirk, a habit, part of the package. And maybe on a good day, it's almost funny. Maybe it's a little endearing if you let it be. I've had clients come back to me weeks later and say, I don't know what happened, but I started laughing at the thing that used to make me so frustrated. And what shifted wasn't their partner. It was them. It was their thinking. Acceptance isn't settling. It isn't giving up on what you deserve. It's releasing the relentless grip of judgment long enough to see your partner as a whole, complete, imperfect human being, just like you are. And from that place, connection becomes possible again. I want to come back to this idea because I think it might be the most important thing I say in this entire video. You don't fall out of compatibility. You fall into insecure, negative thinking. And that distinction matters enormously. And it's helped me so much in my relationship with Dave. Because insecure, negative thinking, it's not a permanent condition. It's a weather pattern. Our insecure thinking moves in. Now it feels all-consuming. And it can make you believe things about your relationship and about your partner that simply aren't true from a calmer, clearer place. When your thinking shifts, everything shifts with it. How you see your partner, how you feel when you're sitting next to them, what seems possible between you. Now, if you're in a physically or severely emotionally abusive relationship, you must decide for yourself whether you stay or leave or get help. I know that everyone has inside of them the wisdom to make their own decisions. And I've seen that every relationship contains possibilities beyond what you see now. I encourage you to not make big decisions about your relationship until you are neutral, clear, and not in a negative mind. You see, when you get neutral, you'll know what makes sense for you. And more often than not, I've found that couples find new ways to move forward in their relationship with love, renewed commitment and connection. Hope isn't naive. Hope is actually one of the most grounded, realistic things you can bring to a relationship because it points to what's possible, not just what is. The most important decisions you'll ever make about your relationship, make them from a clear, neutral mind, not from the middle of an argument when everything feels urgent and you're upset, or not the end of a long, exhausting week when you're tired, or not when the story in your head has been running on a loop for days and you're thinking and you're thinking and you've started to believe it's the only truth there is. We want to make those decisions from a quieter place, a settled place, a place where you can actually hear yourself think and feel. Because from that place, something different becomes available to you. Clarity you didn't know that you had a moment ago. Perspective that the noise was drowning out. A more honest, more generous view of your partner and of yourself. And you know what I've witnessed more times than I can count? Love can be renewed, not just maintained. It can be renewed. It can be deepened, made more honest and more real than it ever has been, because it's been tested now. You know, you've had some troubles and you choose to renew your relationship with your eyes wide open. The connection can be rebuilt from a foundation that you share, the history, the understanding, the small daily moments that don't make it into the highlight reel, but they make up a life. Commitment can mean something deeper than it did before, because it's no longer just a feeling you fell into. It's something you decided, something you keep choosing. It's not wishful thinking. You know, it's something that becomes possible when our mind settles, when we stop looking for the exit and start looking for the door that leads us back to one another. So if your relationship feels like it's lost something right now, before you decide what it means, before you let your mind write the whole story of what's gone wrong and who's to blame and whether this is fixable or not, I suggest you get quiet, get neutral, get curious, focus on what you love and like about your partner. Give yourself the gift of seeing your partner and your relationship from a clearer mind, because the person you fell in love with, they're still here. That connection you once had, it hasn't gone anywhere permanent. It's still there waiting for you to think clearly again. And the version of you that saw something beautiful in them, that chose them, that felt something real, that's still there too. And that's where we begin.